So Donald Trump had a little bit of a controversy.
No. Him?
Yeah, if you can believe it. As you know, the Republican National Convention is happening in Milwaukee in next month, actually. And Donald Trump was in Racine, Wisconsin, was hyping Milwaukee. And the reason why he has to hype Milwaukee is because it was reported, and then he confirmed it basically, that Trump was crapping all over Milwaukee as a city. And some people took offense to that from Wisconsin, right? You don't want that out there. And then they, the Fox News tried to nip it in the bud, I think is what the reporter from Jesse Waters, said, let's put this to bed, or we'll nip this in the bud. I think actually it was put this to bed on Hannity, nip this on the bud on Waters. And he said, well, a lot of crime, but great city, but a lot of crime. So much crime that Donald Trump, I'm not even sure, wanted to be there for the RNC. But here he is in Racine making the case that I picked Milwaukee. I love it.
Thank you very much. Wow. Oh, and I love Milwaukee. I was the one that picked Milwaukee, I have to tell you. I was the one that picked it. These lying people they say, oh, he doesn't like Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. I said, you got to fix the crime. We all know that. You got to make sure the election's honest. But I'm the one that picked Milwaukee, and the Democrats, or the radical left lunatics, as I call them, what they say is just so terrible. They lie. They have a horrible candidate. They have a candidate that has no clue, doesn't know where he is, and all they can do is lie.
Let's cut to CNN's Abby Phillips speaking with Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson and ask him to clarify those remarks that Donald Trump, who never lies, picked Milwaukee.
Mayor, thanks for being here. So the former president, he's now saying publicly he loves your city, but he did, according to those sources, call it horrible in private. What's your reaction to the backtrack here from the podium tonight?
It is really, really interesting, Abby, to hear former President Trump say now that he all of a sudden loves Milwaukee and that he even selected Milwaukee. Look, Abby, as you mentioned, I'm a Democrat and the mayor of the largest city in the state, and we're proud to host the Republican National Convention. We worked really, really hard to get the convention. The folks at the RNC have been great. Right before I was initially elected mayor, I took time off the campaign trail to go to Washington, D.C., to go to the RNC headquarters to do the final pitch to bring the RNC here. And it was the RNC that selected Milwaukee. I think I would remember if Donald Trump had anything to do with that. He was nowhere to be found. That is a complete fabrication. I am stunned by that.
Mayor.
Oh, well, lie. They all lie. He lies. Joe Biden lying, Joe lies.
Little Cavalier with the truth, Cavalier.
And that also was dovetailed with the report that Donald Trump is not going to stay in Milwaukee for the convention. He's going to fly in, fly out, and stay at one of his properties in Chicago.
Yes, but that was what originally was the plan.
Oh.
But then they asked him.
Yeah.
And when the story started getting around, now he, according to the New York Times, Trump wasn't going to stay in Milwaukee. And then reporters asked. That's right. He is, in fact, going to be in Milwaukee. When Republicans gather in Milwaukee next month to nominate him for president, Donald J. Trump planned to stay not in the convention's host city, but at a Trump hotel in Chicago, some 90 miles away.
I'm fighting crime, okay?
That changed mid-afternoon on Tuesday after reporters for the Times and an ABC station in Chicago contacted his campaign for comment. And Mr. Trump now intends to stay in Milwaukee.
I mean, I don't understand. Well, I do understand.
What's the beef here?
I mean, it's the beer capital of the world, and I'm a teetotaler.
Yeah.
Just stay in the presidential suite at the 5-star hotel in Milwaukee. Just do it one time. He
doesn't low rent city, horrible crime.
Well,
Lada doesn't want to see it.
like, I mean, when I went to go see the Super Bowl, I had to stay in like a pretty rough motel. It was a smoking room, and had to share it with my dad, who snores. And that was worth it because it was a big event. So Donald Trump, the Giants won that Super Bowl. I don't know if you remember it, Sam.
No, I don't. I've blotted that
In
one out.
Indianapolis, yeah. And so this is worth it, buddy. This is
idea.
worth it. This is worth it. You can stay in just a 5-star hotel and not your own property for once.
Speaking of Donald Trump, people are making a big deal out of this. I think they're making a big deal out of the wrong thing, to be honest with you. This is the guy who wrote a book about Donald Trump. How
Ramin
Donald
Setubay.
Trump and Mike Burnett took America through the looking glass. Ramin Setubay was on with CNN's Caitlin Collins about a series of interviews he conducted with Trump for his book, Apprentice in Wonderland. This is, talking about Mark Barnett, who was the executive producer of The Apprentice. And he's relating Trump's cognitive abilities during these interviews. I have a slightly different take on this, but here's Ramin Setubay.
Can we just first start off about your sit downs with Trump 6 times after he left the White House, which, is such a different period, thinking about what's happening in Virginia tonight and seeing his grip on the Republican Party. I mean, what was he like? What did you observe from him when you sat down with him?
So I interviewed Donald Trump more than any other journalist since he's left the White House. We started in May 2021, and that report you just talked about meandering and confusing is right. He goes from one story to the next. He struggles with the chronology of events. He seems very upset that he wasn't respected by certain celebrities in the White House, and then he'd go to a story about The Apprentice. So as you know, Caitlin, it's very challenging to interview Donald Trump and to go toe-to-toe with him, but there was some cognitive questions about where he was and what he was thinking, and he would from time to time become confused.
Because you wrote at one point about Joan Rivers, him telling you that she voted for him in 2016, I believe, even though...
confidently told me and declared that Joan Rivers voted for him when he ran for president, and Joan Rivers died in 2014. Joan Rivers died in 2014, so she would not have been able to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and because you talked about his memory, you wrote that, on some days I have the feeling he has no idea.
But on her deathbed, she told her daughter, vote for Trump for me. Here's the part that, look, I in a million years, I wouldn't have known when Joan Rivers died. It's conceivable that Joan Rivers came up to him in 2013 and said, if you ran for president, I would vote for you.
She was also a contestant on The Apprentice, too, so this is all about The Apprentice.
Right.
Yeah.
But the really weird thing is that you're doing an interview with a reporter after 4 years of being president, and you're trying to brag about Joan Rivers voting for you? Like, what the F is wrong with you? Yeah, I know you think that I lost, but Joan Rivers said she voted for me. So I think I've got Hollywood pretty wrapped up. In what context are you bragging to a reporter? Okay, let's say she died in 2017, not 2014, about somebody who hasn't been on the scene for at least 4 or 5 years, who was not exactly I get it, but it's not
Well, she broke the glass ceiling with the late night talk show, so who's the real feminist, Hillary?
I think she's a bit, but what world are you bragging about Joan Rivers voting for you when you're president? This is the one thing about conservative baby brains. And I'm convinced you can pick a conservative out without even knowing anything about their politics by their level of aggrievement. At the end of the day, their aggrievement is going to carry all. And that is
his brain in particular is bizarre, though. It's all he's stuck in the glory days of The Apprentice, and everything else is just flowing from that, whether it be TV ratings, whether it be crowd size. he cares about the marketing of the presidency and nothing else, and the eyeballs on it. It's really an interesting. I wish his brain would be studied, but we know he.
We
won't
had
let
the
that
biggest
happen.
crowds. Is there any more to this?
Yeah, and because you talked about his memory, you wrote that, on some days I have the feeling he has no idea who he's even talking to, that he actually forgot or didn't remember that the two of you had spoken at your first sit-down interview.
Right. So my first sit-down was in May. He wasn't doing a lot of interviews. And then we sat down again towards the end of the summer. And when I sat down, there was a very blank expression on his face. So I asked, do you remember when we spoke recently? And he said, no, I have no memory of that. And he couldn't recall. He said it was a long time ago. And then we had to start from scratch. So the interview started from square one, where he started telling me the same exact stories that I heard in our first
Well, they're
interview.
good stories.
So
So-
from there, then we did more interviews so that we could cover more ground. But it was a little bit like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and the Trump. Can we?
I just part of me is his brain is clearly mushy and messed up in many ways, and there's a lot of synapses firing in the wrong direction or whatever. But I also just think he's a narcissist that definitely doesn't remember most people that have conversations with him. Like
Tiffany,
yeah.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, who is that?
Wait. Oh, right. You're my daughter. I forgot about you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like also I don't mean this is me obviously speculating, but this writer Ramin Setudeh, like he's a Persian guy.
Yeah.
Trump remembering a reporter who also was like presumably a ambiguous minority man. Like he's probably like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Why'd you bring this guy in here?
Right.
Like it could be a cognitive thing, but it also could just very much be like he's gonna forget about you the second you leave his.
Human beings coming
leave
and
his
talking
his
to him
sightline.
need to be just vessels for him to tell stories, and that's really it. They're all just faces.
He barely
blobs.
possesses object permanence.
Yeah,
Like it's.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.